Let's start then. Welcome everybody to the Halifax Board of Selectmen's meeting for April 13th, 2021. As usual, we are being, we're being taped, I assume by Area 51.
Well, no, what happens is the YouTube recording will be sent to them. So we'll go on Area 58, just in
Okay.
a different manner.
All right, just making sure. As we normally like to do, it's a little more awkward on Zoom, but we typically start with the Pledge of Allegiance. So I think I'd like to continue that tradition.
You got a flag behind you, Tom, so.
I left it there deliberately. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Next up is the approval of the agenda. Are there any last minute additions from anybody?
I have none. Tom, so I'm not sure who's here, but folks should be aware that both our 7:30 and our 7:45 canceled, and our 8 o'clock Adam Cushman will be in at 7:30.
Okay, that works.
I'll move that agenda.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's helpful. We have quite a few things on tonight. Selectmen's minutes are next. Has everybody had an opportunity to review the regular session for March 3rd, session rather, for March 23rd, and the executive session for March 23rd?
Yep.
Everybody good with them?
Good.
Make a motion to approve the minutes and hold the executive session.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor for the regular session minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
Hello?
Andrews?
Aye.
Yeah. Ms. Millius? Aye. Do you wanted to hold the executive session minutes?
Yes, as they have to do with negotiations.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, they can be approved though.
Yeah, and held, right? Approved and held.
Yeah, we're not going
Yeah.
to release it to the public, correct?
Until negotiations are completed.
Yeah.
So you want to approve them? Yes?
Yeah, yes, a motion to approve and hold until the purpose of holding them is.
Right, which is the usual. Mr. Guerin, okay, moved and seconded for the executive session minutes from March 23rd, 2021. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Guerin, over to you.
I move that we affirm the approval of the following warrants and commitments. Payroll warrant number 95 for $385,369.73. School warrant number 96 for $924.07. Vendor warrant number 98, $38,844.89. Withholding warrant 99, $134,645.71. And warrant article number 100 with $35,943.74. And ambulance commitments, there are 3. One for $25,322.79, $39,480.81, $53,291.39.
I'll second all except for payroll warrant number 95, internal numbers 2262, 2263, 2266, 2277, and the vendor warrant. I abstain from warrant number 100 for internal numbers 2337 and 2373.
Sorry, Mr. Andrews, did you say 2337?
2337 and 2373.
Okay. I thought I transposed them there, but that would have been correct. All right, with the exception of the numbers enumerated, do I have did you move them? Yes, you did?
Troy moved them, I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor, with the exception of the numbers noted?
Aye.
Aye. I'll move the payroll warrant number 95 for 2262, 2263, 2266, and 2277.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Recuse.
2 and 1 recusal. I'll move vendor warrant number 100 for 2337 and 2373.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Recuse.
And 2 aye, 1 recusal. Thank you. Moving on.
I move to affirm and approve the following selectmen bills. KP Law PC legal February, $2,258. Attorney Lawrence Mayo, $3,768.75. And Brooks and Durant is for $40.
I'll second that. All those in favor? Aye.
Recuse.
2 ayes, 1 recusal. Passes.
I move to approve the following selectmen bills. Halifax Postmaster mailing for 2021. Town meeting warrant, $895.43.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
I move to approve the following warrants and commitments. Vendor warrant number 101 for $50,755.38. School warrant number 102 for $508,868.94. Payroll warrant number 13103, $386,634.12. And withholding warrant number 104 for $135,161.44. Mobile park fee number 34.
Yeah, that's supposed to be number 4. I'm sorry. Just
Yeah.
that's mobile home park number 4.
All right, noted.
Okay, I can second, except for within vendor warrant internal, vendor warrant number 101, internal 2421, and payroll warrant 103. I need to recuse myself from 2389, 2390, 2393, 2403.
With the exception of 2421 and vendor warrant number 100 and 2389, 2390, 2391, and 2403 from payroll warrant number 103. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. I
Recuse.
will move
Okay.
vendor warrant number 101, number 2421, payroll warrant number 103, 2389, 2390, 2391, and 2403. Do I have a second?
Second.
Hey, Tom,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
it was 2393, not 2391.
Oh, okay. Correction, 2393. All those in favor? Aye.
Recuse.
And 1 recusal. All right.
Finally, I move to approve the payment of the following selectmen bills dated April 13th, 2021. Selectmen's expense account, $26.78, WB Mason Incorporated.
Is that it?
Selectmen's expense account, Express newspaper, $42.
Is that all of them, Troy?
No, got a couple more.
Okay.
Account. Next is $72.10. One Quonset Pond Management, $12,755.40. And I believe that completes it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. And on to general mail. Mr. Seelig, you're up.
Okay, so we got about 5 minutes before our first appointment.
Yep.
On the COVID front, we've had an additional 30 cases since March 25. That brings a total of 503 in Halifax, with 22 in the last 14 days, which provisionally would be bringing Halifax back to the yellow zone out of the red zone. We're still waiting for federal government to issue complete guidelines on the rescue package and so the limitations of how any money could be spent. And then obviously, we're going to have to be working with Plymouth County on the money that they will be receiving for the municipalities in the county. There may be some good news at the end of the week about a regional vaccination site at Bridgewater State University. I have a Zoom meeting scheduled for Friday morning, not that I'm hosting, it's the invite from BSU. That's what I have on COVID. Gordon had asked for a discussion about return to work. Back in March, the board had permitted employees to work from home due to the pandemic. And with the vaccine becoming widely available, it's probably appropriate time, especially, Gordon had asked for this, to discuss having all employees return to work at their normal workplaces. And at some point, we're going to be out of the pandemic or out of it to do that, but you all go ahead.
I just think at this time with everyone that would have had issues returning to work, they should have been able to get the vaccine at this point in time. And
All right.
I think we owe it to the residents to have everyone back to work. So I was going to propose a date of May 17th, but if people don't think that's appropriate, we can move it sooner.
I don't have a problem with that. Just to be clear for people, almost everybody is working and has been working. So this really only applies to a relatively few people. And I think it's now appropriate. I would be supportive of that.
So would I. It seems like a reasonable amount of time to get the business in order.
Yep. So you made that as a motion, Mr. Andrews?
Yep. Is May 17th acceptable to you, or do you want May 1st, or?
I don't think May 1st is a problem, but what are your feelings, gentlemen?
I don't think it matters one way or another. If the person's going to come back, they're going to come back.
Right.
Okay, then I would make the motion to have, to end our allowable work from home to end on May 1st.
Do I have a second for that?
Okay.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Excellent, thank you. It is now, we've still got a minute, I guess.
Just on the Comcast, we're here doing the hearing at 7. Just to repeat from a couple of weeks ago, South Shore Resource Advocacy Center did ask the board to support the article that we have on the warrant on an annual basis for funding of a contract between themselves and us. They weren't able to get their regular citizens petition in because of COVID and gathering signatures. I'll end it for there. Let me see, well, I'm going to skip a beat here, go down to number 6. When I talked to the board a couple of weeks ago, South Coastal Legal Services had contacted the town about it, but they did call a couple of days ago to say, just as with the Advocacy Center, they're asking for the board to propose the article on the warrant. It's on the warrant for the normal amount of $3,500. They had the same problems. So it's listed that way already as the warrant's being printed. But, we did ask for the board to support and propose the article. So that gets us a minute away.
Okay.
You
I'm
need
sorry, go ahead. Go ahead, Gordon.
Do we need a motion on that?
No.
Yes.
Okay.
No?
Well,
I
go
think we
ahead.
should.
Sure. Go ahead.
I would move to support it. If Troy didn't already, I wasn't sure if he did.
I move to support it. They've been a good organization. They have helped the town quite a bit over the last few years.
Yep.
I'll second them.
Moved and seconded to support. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. And I think that brings us to 7:45.
6:45.
No, 6:45, yes, exactly. And I believe we have Michael and Laurie Gomes looking for an extension of their trailer permit. And I think they're on. I think I see somebody over there.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi.
Up there. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what's going on, and we'll see if we can help you out.
Okay.
We had a house was on fire in February, and they had to gut out the kitchen and the living room, and we had to have a new roof put on. So we had to get a trailer so we could live here.
So you're just looking for the extension, right?
Yes.
Basically, that's it.
Yep.
Anybody who's ever had the misfortune of working with insurance companies on any kind of fire damage can appreciate the fact you need some additional time.
Yep.
It's never an easy process.
No, it's not. Yeah. Mhm.
Anybody have any questions? No.
Here.
Can we get a motion?
I would move that we grant the permission to extension of 6 months on their.
I think they were asking for 9 months. I called the mobile home organization, and they just said that they wanted 9 months. I know one application said 6, but she said to go, Laney said to go with the 9 months. Does that work for you guys, Mike and Laurie?
Yes.
Yes.
9 months? Okay, so that's up to the board.
Yeah, well, obviously, you're going to move back into your house the first opportunity you have, right? I mean, that's,
Yes, definitely.
nobody wants to live in a trailer any longer than they have to.
No.
How's everybody feel about that? We good? Change the motion to 9 months?
My motion is 9 months.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded to extend the trailer permit for 9 months. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All set. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
very much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you too.
Bye-bye.
So your next appointment is at 6:55 with Sarah Slope. We'll try and get a couple other things done. Open meeting law determination, the AG's office responded to an open meeting law complaint filed by planning board member Amy L. Troop against the planning board. The AG's office determined a violation did not occur in connection with the complaint. However, the AG's office noted the room size of the meeting, this was back in August at the Great Hall, was insufficient to accommodate all that wished to attend the meeting. And the planning board could not ask various attendees to leave or not come into the room in order not to violate the capacity limits. After that incident occurred, Board of Health agent Bob Valeri and myself notified all boards and committees of this issue. We know if the problem occurred again, that the board or committee would have to adjourn that meeting to another date or time, or and possibly when they're rescheduling it, hold the meeting electronically in order to handle the number of people who wanted to attend. South Coastal Legal Services, we already talked about. Tuition reimbursement. Our patrol officer, Albert D. Hinks, is requesting tuition reimbursement for a criminal justice degree that he's pursuing at Southern New Hampshire University. He started the program in October of 2020 and hopes to graduate in December of 2021. In the contract, it states that any patrol officer in the police department will be reimbursed for 80% of the cost of tuition, books, and education fees for courses taken in the police, science, law enforcement related fields. There's a lot of other material, but the important point is the patrol officer must notify the Board of Selectmen before September 1 of the fiscal year preceding the fiscal year in which the patrol officer will take the course of that he's intending to take, and then have to get written approval of the board. So what it means is, per the contract, tuition reimbursement for fiscal 22, the year coming up, which will be courses taken from July 1st of 21 in a couple of months to June 30th of 22. Patrol Officer Hinks needed to file his request by September 1, 2020, several months ago. He talked with me in December of 20, and I confirm this, but he did not send in the request until now. Similarly, for any courses taken for the year we're in now, meaning from July 1st of 2020 to June 30th of 21, he needed to file his request by September 1st of 2019. I don't know if the board wants to take this under advisement or take some other action.
My recommendation would be to take it under advisement and take another look at this and have some time to digest it.
Do we need to second that, or is that just put it on the agenda for a future meeting?
I think just put it on the agenda for a future meeting. I don't know that we need a motion. Do you think we need a motion, Charlie?
No, because
No.
you're not taking any action.
Right.
On you've been notified. I will make sure it's on the agenda for 2 weeks from now on the 27th.
Everybody good with that? Yeah,
Hey, here.
okay. All right, thank you.
Old Dana Road land transfer, the wheels continue to grind, however slowly. The environmental notification form has been sent to the Massachusetts Environmental Protection Agency, and the states continue to work on the deed for the sliver. That's where we're at. It's as usual with all this, it's taking longer than anybody would think it should, but nevertheless.
Charlie,
Sorry, go ahead.
I could just interrupt for a second. So a resident did reach out and ask us, or ask me as a member of the board, what's going on with that? So while we have a number of people on tonight, do you want to just tell everybody what the sliver?
Sure. Well, what it was is that the town is trading land and some cash. I mean, we're getting cash and some land in order return for 2 parcels, basically. There's a couple of steps in all this, but there is town-owned land that's situated next to state-owned land south of Old Dana Road. The town, for money, is going to be trading a parcel it owns and another parcel with a sliver that's along what we would call the southern edge of Old Dana Road. What that would do, and this came up early on when I was here, so we're talking in the late 1990s, and maybe people were talking about doing that even before then, but I remember the discussion then was that we wanted to get a full right-of-way sufficient to do road construction on Old Dana Road. Without the sliver, we don't have the necessary width in all parts of Old Dana Road. One of the complicating factors back in the 90s is that Plymouth County also owned the parcels that we were interested in trading with the state. They have, during the last couple of years, been very cooperative in working with us to do that trade. We bought their interest. The state is then buying the combined interests of Plymouth County and the town from us. We're getting money out of that. And then and also for another parcel, and then we're getting back that sliver. So we're getting money in the sliver and being able to do some work on Old Dana Road when and if Steve Haywood is ready to be able to do that. In return, we're selling land to the state that we don't have, there's no particular purpose for, and abuts state-owned land so that their holdings south of Old Dana Road will grow slightly.
This has a very long and complicated history that would take all night to explain, but that in a nutshell is pretty good, Charlie. Thank you.
Let's see. Possible opt-out for the state's aerial. Okay, we're at, let me do that one. Possible opt-out for the state's aerial spraying. The board scheduled a hearing for the 27th. The board's heard so far from Kimberly Calvici, I think it is, from the Board of Health agent Bob Valeri and former Board of Health agent Kathleen Dryden, all of whom are opposed to the town opting out. Basically would require, if we did that, the town would have to have an alternate program to replace what the state is doing with the aerial spraying. And we don't have people, facilities, equipment, or wherewithal to be able to do that. But because the state offered this as an option, the board wanted to hear from the public and schedule the formal hearing on the 27th. So we'll do that then. But I just wanted to bring the board up to date as to where that stood. Got one more minute. Insurance renewal. The town renewed its insurance policies for the coming fiscal year with the Massachusetts Interlocal Insurance Association with a rate increase of 4.2%. There's going to be sufficient money in the proposed budget to cover this increase. In fact, I may be able to trim the fiscal 2022 request slightly beyond what the initial request, because during the winter, the figures I had gotten from Maya were slightly higher than what we ended up with. And I think we're at 6:55.
Yes.
So you have an appointment with Sarah Slope.
Very good. Is Sarah with us?
Yes, she is. I don't know. Can you unmute her, Charlie, or does she have to do it?
Oh, she can do it her end. I just don't know what name she's using.
She ended up she was having difficulty getting in, so she did call in on her phone.
So that might be the 774.
It is, yep.
Yeah, that would look right, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
so I sent a note saying, let me see if I can unmute from here. I have to, there we go. It
Yeah.
worked.
There it is, yep. I think she's now with us.
Sarah? Sarah, can you hear us?
Her phone shows.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay, because I did, okay, I did *6 and, okay, anyway, hi, how are you all?
very good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm no techno queen, I'll tell you.
No problem, nothing to worry about. My understanding is you're looking to serve on the COA, which is a wonderful thing. I assume
Yes,
that
I am.
the existing council has talked with you. Is that correct, Sue?
Yep,
Yeah.
so what happened was we had 2 people that wanted to be on and there was only 1 position at the time. And so, it was with the understanding that one position opened up that Sarah would be the candidate for that.
Okay, I'm personally just thrilled that people want to step up and serve. Does anyone have any questions of Sarah, or does Sarah have any questions of anybody else, or?
Now, and working around, I think she'd be an excellent candidate to go.
You, I appreciate that support. I just want to tell you that I will be in the town for quite a while, most likely. And I have been able to work with the COA before, and I work at our local food pantry, so I see a lot of the community come, and I think that I would be able to assist in helping out the Council on Aging and advising about the elderly in the community.
Excellent, and obviously you're coming recommended by the COA. Unless anybody else has another question, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd move to approve.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, a resounding aye. Thank you very much, Sarah. Much appreciated, and congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Cemetery deed. Oh, we'll have one in the office for the board to sign. Obviously, we can't do that right now. You received a site plan review package from the planning board for 640 Plymouth Street, Curtin Brothers Oil, and comments requested. Don't believe they'll actually, I have to be able to review it until May because they have to wait 30 days after sending out the packets to the various departments. But so I'll bring it back to the board on the 27th just to make sure the board's reminded about it.
Okay.
We'll see Mr. Cushman in a few minutes. Fiscal 2020 financial statements and management letter. The audit's complete for fiscal 2020. Hard copies in the mail file here. Anybody wants to peruse it. And interested parties can download a copy from the town's website sitting in the town accountants section. This might be interesting for the Building and Facilities Needs Group. Massachusetts Municipal Building Trust Fund has been proposed. There's proposed legislation that would help municipalities pay for municipal and public safety buildings, similar to programs for assistance for schools and libraries. One version of the legislation I've seen might provide funding up to $1 million per project. Funding source might be a portion of the state sales tax or some other source. And I didn't know if the board was interested in supporting this legislation.
I think it's a great idea.
Gordon?
So at the meeting, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Senator Brady's aide was there, and we had actually talked about a need for a program for like this. So while we don't have all the details of the funding source, I think it is a needed platform to move the town forward and trying to come up with some funding sources of working on the buildings and all the needs that we've been reviewing. So I would be in support of legislation that creates a fund like this.
I can't see any possible downside to this. I mean, how do you not support it? Do we need a motion there, Charlie?
I would move that we support the issue.
I would second.
Moved and seconded to support. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you, gentlemen.
Reached 7 o'clock. Adam's on for 7:30. 7 o'clock is the Comcast performance evaluation hearing for cable television renewal license. We're not in the process of renewing the license right now. We're 3 years out. For doing that, but under the current license stipulations, the board can hold an annual review of the performance of Comcast. I invited Michael Gallup from Comcast to attend the meeting. I'm not sure if he's on. I don't see his name in particular. So I don't know, the board could speak for the record and I could send the comments to him and see what transpires. I know that Tom has something he's been interested in putting on the record on this.
Yeah, my song is the same as it's been for a while. I don't have a particular problem with Comcast other than some full disclosure, and I don't believe it's Area 58. It's Comcast themselves. This has to do with how this funding takes place. And for those of you that don't know, there's a section of your bill that's very ambiguous that's calculated at a percentage of your Comcast bill, which actually pays for the town's share of, for instance, Area 58, the contribution to 58. And my issue has been not so much that it's a terrible thing or it doesn't work well or anything like that, but I think the residents should be aware of what it's actually costing each individual Comcast subscriber. And that's something I keep hitting on every time I have the opportunity. And it's just something that more or less bugs me. And I think it should be transparent. I think everybody should know what they're spending their money on. But that's the only real reservation I have. It's not even a reservation, the only comment I have about Comcast. Gordon?
I agree with you. Disclosure on those types of things. Everyone should know where their money's going and to how things are being funded. So I agree with you. The only thing that I would bring an issue to Comcast about would be the upload speed that the town subscribers are able to have right now for their internet. It's limited and it's affecting the town's service to be able to hold multiple meetings at the same time without having to have multiple, cable modems at town hall to try to Zoom 3 or 4 people at the same time. And that's an issue that we've run into. So I wish there was a way to have them, at least for the municipality, have another plan where they would increase the upload speed for us.
Yeah, interestingly enough, I got an email today alerting me to the fact that they're reaching out to residents to let them know that they're increasing their download speeds, which doesn't help in this instance, but it's just kind of ironic that would happen today. But I agree with you. We have a definite problem, especially at town hall, where we can't do multiple things. Zoom meetings being part of that. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly something we can bring up and should.
Well, since this is a public hearing, I'm not sure anybody who's in our audience is specifically here for the hearing tonight. I can watch and look for any hands up or anything like that. But I'm not seeing anything, and I'm not seeing anything in the comments asking to speak to the board on this matter.
Well, in that case, do you want to convey that to them? What
Sure.
little discussion we've had, and if anything comes up in the meantime, we can always add to it.
Right. I should tell you that a couple of weeks from now, I'll back be talking to you about the renewal process. We received a package from the Telecommunications Division of the Department of Public Utilities. Somehow it was sent, at least it's dated March 2nd, and spent a fair amount of time walking to Omaha and back. I'm not joking. There's a postmark for Omaha on the envelope, and finally arrived a couple of days ago. But Wasn't on the agenda, but I'll bring it back to the board on the 27th. We will have a few steps to start taking in regards to that. So your next appointment after that would be the 7:30 with Adam Cushman. So let me get back to our regular mail here. Ambulance abatement for March 2021, that'd be $62,957.91.
Move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to abate at $62,957.91. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
We had requests for 4 highway department employees to carry over 40 hours of vacation per the contract from fiscal 21 to fiscal 22. The contract stipulates the board needs to approve the carryovers.
So moved.
We have been allowing for carryovers because of the conditions. This really doesn't deviate from what we've been doing, right?
Correct, and even under, without the, excuse me, without the pandemic, this is a normal thing, stipulation in the contract.
I think
Can I have them?
Troy moved it. I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Animal control reappointment, Chief Shaw says recommending the reappointment of Amanda Farrelly. I'm sorry about not pronouncing the name correctly, as the animal control officer for a term of May 1st, 2021 to April 30th of 2022.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye, unanimous.
Proposed flag ceremony, Mark Valentine's proposed a flag ceremony on April 21st at 11 a.m. for about 10 minutes on Dwight Street. This involves a very large Great Britain flag. It's not as big, I believe, as the flags he has done with events here in Halifax for the US, but it's a fairly large flag for something for a foreign nation out sitting here in the US. I did check, he expects about 25 to 30 people to attend. I checked with the chiefs and the health agent, and there were no objections. So the flag display would be in the middle of the street, meaning from the middle versus the two ends. People who live on Dwight Street would still be able to get to their houses because it wouldn't overlap where their houses are. They'd be able to get in from one end or the other during this. So he's asking permission from the board to have this display and event on the 21st at 11 a.m.
He's doing great with the flag. I would say yes.
As long as it's not a major inconvenience to the residents, because I wouldn't have any objection to it. Gordon?
My dad owns a piece of property. I don't think there's any restriction on this one. As long as he works with everyone, I think it's fine.
Okay,
Been in contact with everybody living there, yes.
Yeah.
can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Plymouth County Mosquito Control District, there was aerial spraying of larvicide last week, and there will be aerial spraying happening this week. Just, there's no action obviously to take, just they do send us notices, and I wanted to make sure that it was on the record that the board had received this.
Right.
Complete Streets Program, there was submission of 21 projects, and that was sent to the state last week. We're now waiting for a response from the state. One Stop for Growth. This is a new program done by the state that sort of not combines, but tries to reduce the amount of paperwork, I guess is the best way, of cities and towns applying for a variety of grants under this umbrella. And so the initial starting point was what was called an expression of interest that was submitted on April 2nd. The idea is the Commonwealth will then try and match the various state grants with the needs of each of the communities. The list that I sent, we needed to put in 3 or 5 of them, was making improvements for the area around 106 and 58, not just the road network or the traffic lights or crosswalks, but if there are things that we can help the commercial properties to do that, expanding the sidewalk system and rebuilding roads across the town, replacing several municipal buildings, better broadband and internet service, and then a proposed aluminum sulfate pump house in Tremont Ponce Pond to deal with the phosphorus as a nutrient and trying to reduce the amount of algae. We're waiting to hear back from the state on that expression of interest. You have a contract proposed by the Highway Department. I have to find the, this would be signed for auctioning off surplus vehicles. I think they've done that from time to time. There's, I think, 4 of those, plus some equipment, plus I think it was 2 playground swings and a bunch of tires. Let's see if I can get to that. So I want to pull it, I have to pull that out to say who the contract is with. That would be helpful. This is for Auctions International, who we've used before, in fact, on this very type of activity. The board approves it, then it's just up to Tom to sign it. It doesn't require the 3 signatures, but we've worked with these folks before.
I think they actually did a pretty good job for us the last time, and at that particular juncture, some of those vehicles have been sitting around a long time. And I'm glad to see highways looking to move these things sooner rather than later, because the value only decreases once they've been sitting around out there in the dirt. So I would very much like to entertain a motion to approve this contract.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Okay, cyber awareness training program. We've started the program again for this year. We had this training program. Basically, employees went to a particular website for training in cyber security awareness. Everything from physical security precautions to, what you should be doing, picking a Wi-Fi network at a coffee shop, for instance. We weren't rigid about checking to see if everybody completed their assignments, but I'm going to be working with Caesar this year, and trying to work with department heads and with employees to make sure that everybody completes this. It's helpful, for instance, for our insurance rating with Maya. And then, if there's any trouble spots, I'll get back to the board, and the board can continue working with department heads and employees to try and ensure that everybody participates in this program. On pots upon invasive weeds, Natural Heritage says that more information is needed for the copper treatment, which is an alternative to what we've been doing with the herbicide, but the previous herbicide treatment can be done with the normal monitoring. So I'll check with Solitude to see what the timing is now for that treatment. This is not the aluminum sulfate treatment. We've had invasive weed problems now in both ponds, west and east. They've gotten worse and worse each year. The last time we treated the pond with an herbicide, I think it was like 6 years ago. They always grow back. That's the problem. So my hope is we're going to be doing this in early May, and I'll check with Solitude to make sure what the schedule looks like. Memorial Rock, the VFW and the employees at the town hall would like to spruce up the area around the Memorial Rock. Well, I don't have a better name for it. On the town hall lawn, given to the town by the Grange, not Grade, but by the Grange decades ago. So Dave Walsh from the VFW and employees from the town had contacted, wanted me to send a message to the board, ask the board for permission to, I think they wanted to get some flower beds or other things around that rock to beautify and sort of make it look better than just the rock by itself. If the board's interested in having that done.
Why wouldn't we be?
Anytime we improve the quality of the town is good.
Do we need a motion for that?
If I could get a motion, that'd be great.
So moved.
Okay.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
The fire department received a new grant for $12,493 an award for a fire safety equipment program for turnout gear for brush fires. The board would vote to authorize Tom to fill out the necessary paperwork. I know you signed one form already.
Right.
There'll be a contract form probably you'll need to sign too. But if the board would authorize Tom to do that, but also obviously congrats to the chief and everybody else there at the department. They continue to work hard on bringing money into the town, or money, really what it turns into is equipment and other items that the fire department needs.
Yeah, they've managed to do a pretty good job with that. They're always seem to be on top of it. Can I get a motion?
I would move it. I would ask that we send a letter to the chief and the employees thanking them.
Abigail, can you give me a lift to get my car, please?
Sorry about that, folks.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded, and something to do with Linda's car. All those in favor? Aye, thank you.
Let's see, buses being passed. Kimberly Kavicki had written the board and the police chief. Kimberly had written the board and the police chief about vehicles constantly passing bus 50 when it was stopping the on-board students. I know the chief received a copy of the message. I don't know, one or more of the board may have received it also. I know the chief's on the meeting here. I didn't know if he had any comments or any progress on trying to deal with that situation.
Yeah, so I've instructed the school safety officer, the SRO, Michelle, to kind of keep an eye out on the bus. Again, it's like we have talked about before. It's one of those things that if we're not there and we don't get plate numbers, there's not much we can do. And then even if we do get plate numbers, basically, kind of educate the bus drivers to get those plate numbers so we can reach out to the drivers and help them educate them on, the safety of our kids is paramount, and that they should be passing a school bus.
I can't even imagine thinking about doing that, but Gordon?
So in the contract that the school signed, both the elementary and Silver Lake, the buses are supposed to be outfitted with another camera. I'm not sure if it's rolled out for this year or it starts next year, but there's supposed to be a camera on the extension stop that goes out. So hopefully we can help the police chief get that information to him.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Thanks, Chief. My Ponce Pond, back to that. We're filing what's called a 604B application. This is for various projects to do with the pond. In this case, what we're trying to do is get money for feasibility and schematic design for a pump house for the aluminum sulfate treatment. So obviously for a number of years, most years we've done that treatment in the pond. What we have is Solitude or another firm come out with a boat with a chemical. They go out there, they don't just dump it in the pond right at the shore. They go out with a boat to make sure it's evenly distributed throughout the pond. But the thing is, obviously, in terms of logistics, it's difficult. It's a one-shot approach, and it's not sort of on demand. So the concept, and it's been done in other ponds in the United States, is that you have a pump house that will then send the chemical out, basically turn the spigot if the phosphorus levels are too high, so that you can, again, evenly distribute it, but you don't have to bring in the equipment, you don't have to bring the manpower and such, all the logistical details. We had looked at the possibility of doing this, but when originally we had gotten bids to do some design work and such, but the bids were very high, but we now have this opportunity to go after the state funding to, at least for the first step. It would not be a construction level type of set of specifications and design, but it would give at least the concept, an idea, a thorough going over to see whether we could put something together that might work for West Ponce Pond. We do have to contribute $5,000, but there's money available in the Ponce Pond Fund for that. And so we would be able to get, I think, about 10 times that money through the grant program. So in this case, Tom, I think there's a letter here for the board to sign. I guess I should have been gathering signatures when you were coming through to pick up the packets. But if both of Troy, who's here, and then Gordon can come in to sign, and the board vote tonight to approve sending the application, and that would be helpful.
Well,
We can do that. Did I just hear a motion?
You did, from Troy.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. On the FMLA leave request, received a note from the police department to pass over that. We just did receive notification from the planning board that they did recommend approval of the change in floodplain bylaw that's part of the town zoning bylaws. So that will go to town meeting in May with their recommendation. There is a letter accommodation from the police chief. Let's see, for Officer McIntyre. Get through this. I know it's here someplace. I know it was here because I put it in the notes. Here it is. The board would like me to read it.
Yes.
So dear Officer McIntyre, and this is from the police chief on April 8th, 2021, you demonstrated the qualities and character that are so valued by me and our community in responding to an incident at Cranberry Drive where a female resident had gone into labor and was delivering her baby in the bathroom. Your quick actions in dealing with this event, putting your training to work and assisting the mother deliver a healthy child by loosening the umbilical cord from around her neck, cleaning out her mouth and massaging her chest, proved to be invaluable to ensuring the baby did not go into distress until the fire department personnel arrived and could provide more advanced medical assistance. Had you not arrived on scene so quickly and been able to take control of the situation, the results could have been tragic for both the mother and infant. I am confident in saying that you saved the baby's life this morning. I commend your actions, your professionalism, and your dedication to our profession and to the residents of Halifax. I'm sure you will continue to be a great example to the other officers and a great asset to the Halifax Police Department.
Send a letter from the board of selectmen congratulating him too.
Yes, absolutely. Echo those sentiments.
I'll second that. If that's the motion, Troy.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Let's see, Flower and Soul, which is the marijuana facility that's proposed, retail facility proposed for down on Plymouth Street near the Bridgewater line. The outreach meeting has been posted for April 22nd. This is not a selectmen's meeting. This is an outreach meeting organized by the vendor, but it's posted for the selectmen in case we end up with a quorum. The host community agreements going back and forth between council for Flower and Soul and town council. Flower and Soul in the area like Wall Street and Circuit Street saying neighborhood traffic only and speed limits strictly enforced. I understand the interest in having that done. I'm not sure if this is legally enforceable. And then also the second would appear to indicate that different standards are being used on those streets rather than all others. It's one of the problems I know that Steve Hayward has with, go slow or go slow children signs, various parts of Halifax, because it really residents should be, or motorists should be observant of all children in all the streets. But I'm also not sure how to discourage customers from using these roads to go to Flower and Soul, even though Flower and Soul's entrance would be on Plymouth Street. It's not, so, he's been in contact with the neighbors and such and the abutters, and he's hearing back from them. It might be something at some point we talk to council about, or whether this would be part of a host community agreement, or whether that would be done through site plan, even though this is where it gets weird. Of course, the site plan work is not, it might be more akin to the special permit, because site plan is specific to the property, whereas a special permit might require the vendor to take other actions. But it's also something that you probably would want to talk to Steve Hayward and the Traffic Safety Committee before making a commitment. Chief, do you have any comments about this? So Tom, I'll wait for the chief to see if he's going to say anything, but Chris Winowitz, who's an abutter, has raised his hand. You want him to allow him to speak to this?
Sure, absolutely. Chris, you with us?
Yes, Tom, this is Chris Winowitz at 129 Circuit Street. I just had a question. Are we going to see a preview of the preliminary host agreement before the meeting?
If it's ready to go, yes.
Yeah.
In the sense of it's being bounced back and forth between council for Flower and Soul and for the town. If something is agreed to, I'll have it posted up on the website so that folks can review it before the outreach meeting.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Charlie, I'm sorry, I stepped away from my computer. You were asking for comments on the Flower and Soul proposed retail establishment?
Well, the traffic signs that some neighbors would like to see on Circuit and on Laurel. They're looking to get neighborhood traffic only signs and speed limit strictly enforced signs on those two streets.
All right, would have to have a meeting with the Traffic Safety Commission. This is the first I hear of possible, signage on Circuit Street as part of their proposal.
So, that's where we're at now for that. As I said, if we get the HCA work completed, it will be a draft between the council for the two parties, then I will post it before the 22nd. Council on Aging Director transition. Got a couple more minutes before 7:30. I may be presumptuous in this, and so the board can tell me to slow down on that. But I'm expecting that Susan Lawless is going to become town clerk on May 22nd, which will be a week after the election. She's the only candidate on the ballot. And I don't know if the board wanted to start taking steps for a transition at the Council on Aging. That would include start advertising the director position, setting up a new search committee, whether it's just the Council on Aging members, or it's a combination of some of them, town officials, other residents, whether the board wanted to start taking steps to hire an interim director or do anything else, or obviously, not do anything in the meantime.
I think it would be appropriate and wise to start a search at this point. Town clerk is a very unique position. Aside from the fact you'd have to have some experience to walk into a job like that, hopefully. You also have to be a resident. So, and never say never, but I would assume Sue will be elected. And I think hitting the ground running on a COA director would be a wise move. If something unusual should happen at the end of the election process, we're not bound by anything, but I think it makes sense to go ahead and initiate a search and be proactive in this.
So what steps would that's the case?
Unless somebody has a different motion, I would suggest going ahead and forming a search committee. I think perhaps the last time around, our search committee might have been a little bit too big. I think that may have been a little bit problematic. I'm not sure of that. I'll welcome feedback on that. But the Council on Aging, I think, should be involved. And the current director, I assume Sue would want to be involved in this. And I'm willing to listen to Sue's suggestion. Would you like anybody else from the community, Sue? What are your thoughts?
I have spoken with the chair of the board about it, and I was gonna speak to the board as a whole on Tuesday, but she was in agreement that if maybe the resumes could be sent to the COA board, and then however many you guys wanted to be sent forward to you, they could review them and then pass that forward to you and you do the interview part. Just to, so it doesn't take as long as it did last time.
Right. I think I'd be comfortable with that. Gentlemen, comments?
Sounds like a good idea to me.
I'm fine with it. Do you want to tell them 4 or 5 candidates to send to us to interview, or?
If there are that many, I think if they want to narrow it down to, I don't know, 5's maybe a lot. I'm not sure we'll get that many candidates, but 4 candidates maybe.
Okay.
How does that sound, everybody?
Or at least 4, and if they find that 5 are very qualified for the job, they could send all 5 to them.
Yeah, we can leave that open-ended. Sure, that makes more sense.
And I just, not to be negative, that's going to be anticipated job opening, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So Tom and Gordon and Troy, my plan would be then to start advertising with a deadline somewhere, let's say 3 or 4 weeks from now, which would obviously bring us into early to mid-May. We'll get the resumes in, get them to the Council on Aging. We'll hope that they can review them in 7 to 10 days. If you're going to do interviews, you'll probably do them on a special night in late May, would be my guess. That obviously is going to be, we'll have a little time, assuming Susan takes a job as town clerk, there'll be a little time where we won't have someone that, depending on who you select, it may be a couple weeks or it may be up to a month. My hope is that obviously everybody here and everybody at the Council on Aging can work together to make sure that the council will be able to continue to operate as well as it can without a actual director being there.
Good.
Does Sue mind working double the hours for?
Have to pay.
And we'll have that discussion with Susan. Maybe you can't. You might convince her. Okay. Otherwise, if the board's ready, then we have a 7:30 with Adam Cushman, who I believe is on camera. I can see a couple of folks in scout uniforms. If the board's ready to do that.
I believe we are ready, and you're correct. It is past 7:30, gentlemen. We apologize for running a little late. Thank you.
It's no worries. So my name's Adam Cushman. I've lived here in town just about my whole life. And I joined the Scouts right away, 12. And I've been working towards my Eagle ever since. Recently, I've taken up a position as SPL on the troop. So that was last year and this year, and that's senior patrol leader. And so through that, I've learned, a lot of leadership skills and that sort of thing. And so I was hoping to get approval for my Eagle project, which would be a Gaga pit in town behind the elementary school. And this is over by the new playground they put in kind of behind the softball field. I believe there should have been a small presentation that was printed out and handed to all the selectmen with a few pictures of what a Gaga pit is. And so, yeah, I was just wondering what you guys thought.
So Adam, you might want to talk a little bit of what Gaga is, in the sense of it can be indoor, it could be outdoor, but you need that sort of fenced in area and what it involves. It involves bats, balls, gloves. They may not.
Sure. So it's a sport played in like a octagon ring, and similar to dodgeball. And it's you play with dodgeball balls, and it's more or less last one in the ring wins. And I think it would be a good addition to have to the elementary school playground, both for people who want to come with their kids and play, but also for kids during recess.
Good.
Adam, is this one of the games that's played on field day, typically in 5th and 6th grade?
I believe so, yes.
Have you talked to Youth and Rec yet to see?
I have, yeah. So I talked to the Youth and Rec, and they're the ones who are looking to have me do the project. And so I was working with Mr. Steele on that.
Did they have an area marked out that you want to install this on?
Yeah, that was behind the softball field. There's a picture of it in the pamphlet. I'm not sure if you got that, but it's kind of to the left of the new playground behind the school.
Good. Charlie, do you have that?
I know we got the pictures, but I don't know that we got
Location.
the actual location on a map or anything.
Yeah, I don't recall seeing the location in that packet. Definitely the description of the Gaga ball.
With that packet, if you look at the second pictures on the right, like the first pictures on the right, I'm sorry, that is the pictures of the area.
Okay, maybe we just missed it though. That's all.
So yeah, what it is the dirt area where you would be putting the Gaga thing.
Right.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Just take into consideration that sometimes that land gets kind of wet.
Okay.
So Adam, I don't know if you've heard Troy, he was asking about weather conditions and some, if it rains too much or the area gets wet, how is the fence going to be stable enough to handle that?
So the fence is going to be made of wood, obviously, and that's going to be have boards going into the ground that are cemented in, and there'll be sand throughout the center of it, which will allow for it to drain out, and it won't really become as muddy as one might think.
The only other question I would have is, did you check with the people that run the softball to see if that's would you put fencing around that area for whether or not that, because that's the open side that you're talking about next to the big tree at the school?
It's behind the softball field. So the fence for the softball field is kind of in front of all of that. This is like behind it, like almost on that road.
Oh, near the batting cage area?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I just don't see the picture of the packet. That's why I was asking. If you've checked with everyone and everyone's okay with it.
Sorry about that. We're not used to being back on Zoom again. That's the problem.
Yeah, if everybody's on board, that's the key. And you've talked to Youth and Rec, which I think is something that you needed to do. Any other questions from anybody?
No, just a statement. Anything that the Eagle Scouts have done a quality job.
Yeah.
And they've always brought a little more quality of life to the town, especially for our youth. Well, I'm behind it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It absolutely has to be the most active troop in the Commonwealth, I have to believe.
There are more Eagle Scouts than most of the country.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a credit to the organization in town, by the way. So, very good. And to the youth involved in it. I would be fine with it. I would entertain a motion to approve the Eagle project.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded to approve the project from Adam. All those in favor?
Aye.
Does he need all of us to sign, or is it just Tom?
Adam?
It doesn't matter. Someone.
Okay.
Okay. All right, it's unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Let's see, the town budget. Finance Committee had proposed a budget that does not have an across-the-board increase, does not fully fund many of the requests that were made by the departments, including Silver Lake and the Halifax Elementary School. It also does not use any of the additional 300,000 that are set aside that we don't levy. We don't go about all the way up to the levy limit. While it is, the proposed budget's going to be in the warrant, the committee knows that may change. Their recommendations may change. They're waiting for the Mass House budget to come out, which is either for this week or next week. We'll continue to review local receipts and we'll look at other funding opportunities. We'll be working with the town accountant. So even what's published in the warrant is not the final word. Well, obviously, anything there should be meeting not next Monday because of the holiday, but they'll be meeting on the 26th and then May 3rd, and whatever comes out of the May 3rd, we'll get up on the website and put out announcements that the budget update is there. So they're still, they're still willing to make changes in the budget, or changes in the recommendations based on what money becomes available one way or the other.
Tom?
Yes, I'm sorry.
The feedback that I've received so far for the Silver Lake budget is Plimpton and Kingston haven't had any pushbacks against it. So I would suspect if the town does choose to follow the recommendation of the Finance Committee, that we'd be back at a August or September meeting to vote the full amount this year. I know previously that we hadn't supported it as a town, probably 5 or 6 years ago now, and we worked. The Finance Committees worked together with the other towns to try to push back on Silver Lake about the growth. I know that this year, just with the charter school increase enrollment, was $160,000, and the net state aid for Silver Lake is down the $160,000 increase. So one thing that would be interesting, as the regional agreement is up for reconsideration again, it needs to be reviewed every 10 years. And the discussion on charter schools and how the funding of students from each town gets funded, because currently right now everyone's treated the same. It's just the charter school money comes out. It doesn't matter how many students you have going. It's not treated like the out of district vocational program. And I think that might be something that would be beneficial to the town when it comes to the assessments. The other thing that would be beneficial would be to ask the legislative bodies to go back and divide out the Chapter 70 funding per town. When you look at the town of Halifax, you look at the elementary school funding and the breakout on the Chapter 70, we should be getting about 40 to 45% of state aid, and Kingston gets about 33%, and Plimpton gets about 25%. But what's happening right now is all the aid is applied at the top. So Halifax isn't as a rich community when you look at the Chapter 70 funding, but we're sharing all the aid among 3 towns. So I think for sustainability for the town and the town being able to afford Silver Lake, we really need to maybe ask the legislature, Kathy Lenatra and Mike Brady, if they could come to one of our meetings and talk to them about that, because I really feel that that's going to be the only way we're going to be able to afford the budget moving forward. Charlie presented numbers looking at enrollment, and over the next few years, the enrollment percentage of Silver Lake is going to grow again. And they're growing, just the budget grows at about $600,000 plus a year just to continue what's happening there. So, if we're a third, that's $200,000 a year. And if we increase a percentage, that's another $200,000. Prop 2.5 is, 3 is 430 or $440,000. It leaves us in the same predicament that we're going to be again next year if we have an increase in special needs tuition like we did this year. So I think as a town, we need to push back on the legislature on this.
Sustainability is something that we've been concerned about for years. I know you brought it up many years ago on the Finance Committee, and everybody bought into it. We cannot sustain that kind of growth. And we have to do something. And I think that's a reasonable thing to do. And bringing in our legislators is certainly appropriate. Let's see what we can get them to do for us.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't think we need a motion for that. We can just invite them. So
That's set up.
Even if it was a special for them, I think would be, whatever time. I would make myself available to come in at any time, that if it was during the middle of the day too.
That's what we've been doing all year. Absolutely. Making ourselves available.
Okay. Next item, municipal vulnerability program. We had a workshop with several of the department heads and such with OCPC last week. 3 more are going to be scheduled in late April. What this program is about is for determining what changes in the infrastructure, public works, public buildings, et cetera, are needed due to climate change. That's where the vulnerability comes in. So the 3 workshops that are going to be later this month will be publicized and they'll be open to the public. It's all going to be on Zoom. We're not doing it at Town Hall, but and if for some reason the public, because of the time of day or what days of the week they're going to be, they're still going to be able to participate by, we'll get information out as to how to, but basically what we're looking for ideas of what points of Halifax are vulnerable to climate change and what might be some of the solutions to reduce possible damage, both short-term and long-term, and be able to just be, I guess sustainability is probably the word that we want in that case. Green Earth Cannabis, which is the proposed vendor up on Holmes Street. No, on Ponson Street. Nothing on the host community agreement on that. I'll check with town council to see if he's heard anything. Green Communities application, which is obviously different than Green Earth. This is, we became a Green Communities community back in 2014. We had received grant funding then, and then we received grant funding a few years ago again for additional improvements. So we've now applied for another $200,000 in funding for weatherization, lighting, and other improvements. It's going to probably be several months until the state makes any awards on that. Another program that we're working with the states, the local rapid recovery program.
Sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Yes, go.
On the Green Communities application, would we be able to do anything with, we've been going on the tours of all the buildings for the buildings needs committee. Would we be able to use any of that money towards rehabbing maybe the old school, putting in a new water heater,
You mean
and using that building?
the schoolhouse?
Yeah, the old schoolhouse. I mean, the room in there is beautiful. Right now, the bathrooms aren't hooked up, and the hot water heater was removed, and there's some mold in the basement. But I didn't know if there was any way to apply some of that money to rehabbing that so we could use that building again.
Not for this grant cycle because the application's in.
Okay.
We can't change courses at this point. But there's no, there's another grant cycle in the next year, et cetera. We already have ideas as to as possibilities. The challenge always is that you need a return on the investment. And the problem with the schoolhouse is that as much as it might need those things, we don't expend a lot of energy there. So that you're looking, is there a payback of 5 years? Is there a payback of 10 years? But there's no harm in having the firm that we've been working with, Guardian, come out when we're starting to look at projects for the next grant cycle, to come out and look at the schoolhouse and say, is there something along the lines specifically what you're mentioning?
Okay.
But it has to be for energy efficiency. Rather than, if we can tie it to that, there may be secondary effects like let's try and reduce the humidity in the basement and such because
Yeah, I agree with you, Charlie. As I understand it, that's what it is. It has to be a return on investment for energy consumption. But again,
secondary effects.
No harm in trying.
Okay.
Local rapid recovery program. It's intended to provide every municipality in Massachusetts the opportunity to develop actual project-based recovery plans tailored to the unique economic challenges and COVID-19 related impacts of downtown centers and commercial areas around the Commonwealth. Halifax, there's about 1/3 of the towns and cities who were able to sign up for this. Halifax was lucky enough to be able to do that. What it is not money. What happens is that the town is assigned a planning consultant. In this case, it's Steve Kearney from, I believe it's Staten. And what he's gathering data available through the state or the census and such from economic activity and such. We had a kickoff meeting a couple of weeks ago. I had gone down to the commercial center and distributed flyers. What we're looking at are businesses that are or customer front businesses. So places that have retail space. So for instance, if you're a plumbing contractor, I wouldn't have dropped a flyer off to you because there's no space there around the 10658 area. We're looking maybe roughly a half mile around that center intersection there. However, so that what's happening right now is there's a survey out gathering data from businesses, particularly in that area, but other businesses too in Halifax, where they can send in information about how they've been impacted by COVID. Have their sales dropped? Have they had challenges in getting employees? What plans do they have for trying to get back and recover? And all that data gets sent in. I don't get to see any of the responses, so which is a good thing. I don't want to know the condition of individual businesses, but it's a way of finding out what would be some ways of bringing more people and more economic activity post-pandemic to Halifax. And I'm attending various workshops online to learn more about some of the options. And even, some of it is, it's interesting enough that it might be ideas that may not be tied to economic activity. Particular, for instance, they were talking about temporary traffic flow in, I think it was Somerville or Cambridge, where what they did was put planters, they would put the stanchions up that are the ones that can be hit and get knocked down. And I was thinking about Walnut Street. There are ways of doing this, and some of these things were traffic calming mechanisms. We're obviously constantly told about traffic conditions on Walnut. So I'm getting useful information out of the workshops that might provide ideas for other possibilities outside of doing economic improvements in the center of town. We're trying to, it's provide a rapid process to identify actions that help communities recover from economic losses. We'll get short, medium, and long-term recovery goals. The consultant will help develop a list of recommended projects or actions and using standardized data. So it's been worthwhile so far. Right now, it's the data gathering section. Then phase 2 is going to begin on May 10th, and we'll work on project identification, developing project details. And then we'll culminate in phase 3 with the development of a final rapid recovery plan. And I'll keep the board up to date as to everything that's going on. So at the end of August, we'll have that rapid recovery plan. And so the firm we're working with is Stantec, Steve Kearney. It's an international firm, actually. It's not just a one-man shop or something like that. So we can gather a lot of expertise from other people in the firm. If he doesn't have information about something, somebody else in the firm is going to do that. He's been down, he lives in Duxbury, actually. He was down last week for a short tour of 106 and 58. And as I mentioned about the survey is up on the town's website. There's a link to that. There's links on the Facebook groups so that businesses can continue to participate for the rest of this week. I've been trying to compile a list of email addresses just in case folks who have businesses in town aren't aware of what's on the website or aware of what's on the 2 Facebook groups. I didn't know if the board had any questions about that project.
Not I.
I know there's been some feedback. Dave Mascio wrote in reference to the work I was doing in terms of getting flyers out to the businesses in the center of town. I guess there were some people upset that not everybody was, that dropped flyers off. Maybe 200 to 300 businesses in Halifax. And obviously a lot of them don't have storefronts. And that was the goal, was to get flyers out to the storefront businesses in Halifax. But he did mention back then, Amy he was referring to was Amy Troop. He said, Amy, he selected who wanted to see this, part of the Nazis party in town. And then his troop was a member of the planning board, wrote back, and the reason he posted it, I emailed him for the list, so she certainly didn't contradict his implication that I'm affiliated with the Nazis in some way. Obviously, that was disturbing to me. I'm trying to get this local rapid recovery program up and running. I'm a member of a congregation of Good Sahim in Attleboro. And so obviously a reference to Nazis and myself is disturbing. And I didn't know if the board had any concerns or thought I was a member of the Nazi party or not. I also didn't know if the board had any concerns about this project and whether this project was somehow affiliated with the Nazis, and also whether my efforts to publicize it by getting those flyers out there to the businesses in the center of town was somehow Nazi related. I don't take it lightly. Not, I understand that Facebook is a great source of conversation and commentary, but when it reaches that point, I need to talk to the board about it. Not just because of the recovery program, which I think is a worthy part of trying to get out of the pandemic, but on my own personal beliefs. So I don't know if the board has any comments about any possibility that I'm a Nazi, but I'd like to hear from the board about that.
I find the whole situation deplorable. I can't even imagine anybody making those kinds of comments and trying to make those kinds of associations. I'm thoroughly personally disgusted with it. And of course not, to answer your question directly, Charlie, I would be furious if I were you, and I don't blame you. I mean, those are absolutely uncalled for. Most heinous comments. I'm actually beside myself. I can't even comment any further without maybe going down a road I don't want to go. But anybody else want to comment on that? Gordon?
Charlie, I don't think I'm part of that party, and I understand why you're upset. I think you're trying to do your best to get out the information that you have to the people that you think need it. And I understand why you're upset.
Well, I interviewed Charlie when he first came on. I didn't see anything on his resume saying it's wrong thing like the Nazi party. I mean, he's done a great job as one man in the town to keep us abreast of things that are coming on, and will continue to be there. And character is not in question in my mind.
I appreciate the board's support. Thank you.
It's well deserved, Charlie. Well deserved.
We did get some updates on some of the properties we talked about a couple of weeks ago. 48 and 63 Carver Street, the fire chief notified the owner that all materials need to be removed by April 24th. No more material will be brought in. We'll wait to see what happens with that. The letter was sent out, of course, a couple of weeks ago. The chief gave them 30 days, which brings us to the 24th. So maybe I'll have an update for the board on the 27th at the meeting.
Charlie, on the next two properties, I need to make sure everyone knows I recuse myself from these.
I understand. 450 Industrial Drive, fire chief approved the plan for Cled's tree service for the fire code, and we'll still need to get other approvals, including site plan approval from the planning board. For map 95, lot 9, sometimes designated as 0 Monpont Street, but I'm using the map lot because that gives it a unique address. The building inspector did say in a letter to the owners that the light industrial use of storage and processing of stumps, logs, dirt, wood waste with some machinery is an allowable use by right as long as the activity remains in the industrial zone and stays within the bounds of the light industrial definition for the town zoning bylaw. And the owner is going to need to apply within 60 days or May 31st to the planning board for site plan approval. So those are the updates for those properties. A couple weeks ago, or actually I guess it's several weeks ago, the board voted to approve carryover of vacation for members of the police department up to 80 hours instead of the normal 40 because of the pandemic. I talked to the board a couple weeks ago about extending that to the other members, certainly of union or non-union for that matter. I heard I wrote to all the department heads, all of them that I heard back from said they saw no problem in increasing the carryover on a temporary basis from 40 hours to 80 hours. So my recommendation to the board tonight is to vote to allow for that. Both if it's a union contract, it will grant an exception if they're not already able to carry over 80 hours. And if it's not, if it's wage and personnel, again, grant the exception in that case.
So we're only asking to vote on this term,
Yes.
this year, what's going on now, and if that's something that will be carried over.
We actually discussed this a little bit prior, and I think we were waiting for some feedback from the department head, so I would definitely be in favor of this.
I'll make a motion.
Moved, can I get a second?
I'll second for the upcoming, this year going into next fiscal year.
Right. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Unanimous? Thank you.
And we did get another commendation letter. Let's see what this is. I can get to it in the mail here. Okay, we got a letter from Mike Saccone, I think there's a Saccone of Whitman. This was to the fire chief. Please accept this letter recognizing the actions of firefighter Colby Silver on Tuesday, March 23rd, 2021. They were standing in line behind 3 Halifax firefighters at Mary Lou's Coffee on Overy Street in Plymouth around 2 p.m. While the firefighters were waiting for their order, a woman walked up, placed money on the counter for a drink she took from the cooler, and said she couldn't wait because her mother was in labor in the car, and then the woman left the store. The workers and other customers in the line didn't appear to be fazed by the woman's remark, as she had been making outlandish comments while standing in the line minutes prior. Regardless, firefighter Silver went to the parking lot to see if the woman and her mother needed medical assistance. Ultimately, it was determined the woman was lying. She wasn't with her mother and no one was in labor. She appeared to have made the comment to avoid waiting in line. I believe that firefighter Silver's quick reaction and subsequent response exemplify her dedication as a first responder, and her care and compassion are a testament of the dedication of the men and women of the Halifax Fire Department, showing the community day in and out, show the community day in and day out. Please don't hesitate to contact me should you have any questions.
I think we ought to write a letter to Colby Silver for his humanity. I mean, it's not only his job, but he's also a personality.
I'll second that.
Yes, very indeed. Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye.
Just a second.
Nothing.
Excuse me for a minute. And then lastly, on my mail, Conservation Commission recordings, I'll try and have someone meet with the board about having the Conservation Commissions take on a regular basis by Area 58. I haven't heard from them, and I'll contact them again after tonight. Pam, do we have anything else that I've missed? I think, was there a road opening or we weren't ready for that, or? McSherry?
Yeah, no, I'm all set. No, I'm gonna do that road opening at our next meeting.
The board may have other business they want to get done. I do want to go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations, sergeants, patrol officers, firefighters, highway, the mixed unit, police chief, fire chief, and any unions associated with Silver Lake and or Halifax Elementary School, as public discussion of the negotiations would be detrimental to the town's negotiating position. But you can save that motion until you're ready to do that.
I don't have any other business. Does anyone else have any other business?
None. Okay, sorry.
For the next meeting tomorrow with the Building Facilities and Needs Committee, we're going to be talking about the community build, and I was wondering if at the next, either the Buildings Facilities Needs Committee, that we could post and have you, both of you come to it, or should we put it on the agenda for the next Board of Selectmen meeting?
I don't have a problem with posting it. I actually wanted to go to the last one, but it was problematic because we hadn't posted it. And it dawned on me as I was getting ready to go there that that would not have been appropriate. So whatever seems to be the most advantageous here. posting that doesn't cost anything to post the meeting at your next meeting.
We've been doing 12:30 on Wednesdays, if that would work for both of you.
Yeah, that would work for me. I don't know about Troy. Troy?
Work for me. I'm going to have my taxes done tomorrow.
So,
Well, it
so if
wouldn't
we
be in
post for
time
next-
tomorrow. Yeah,
next Wednesday, you guys would be available?
yeah, absolutely.
Excellent, probably.
Tom, Chris Winowitz said he raised his hand again. This was about forestry products, but I don't know. I would be very cautious about entertaining anything. You could find out if there's a specific location and whether you want him to speak to that. Because we obviously had canceled various appointments and I don't want to get into that subject area where the appointment was canceled.
Yeah, that was crossing my mind as you were speaking, and in particular where we didn't put anybody else on notice. Not that I want to stifle you, Chris, but I think at this particular moment, it would be inappropriate for us to do that. If you would like, we could probably put it on as an agenda item again and notify anybody involved.
Yes, if you want to put it on the agenda. It was more about what Charlie read about the zoning enforcement officer for the
Okay.
right of.
Yeah, I would, Chris, I would recommend these were just updates really for the board.
Right.
If we're going to get into a substantial discussion, I would want to notify the property owner and also, for instance, the zoning enforcement officer.
Okay, that's fine. I'll reach out to you guys this week about putting it on the agenda.
Good, thanks, Chris, because that's the most appropriate way to do it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else, gentlemen?
I move that we go into executive session to discuss contract negotiations between different unions.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Garin,
Yes.
Mr. Andrews,
Yes.
Mr. Milius, yes. We're going to go into executive session. I want to put everyone on notice that we will, when we come out of executive session, we will not do any regular business. This, for all intents and purposes, is the end of the meeting. Thank you all for attending and see you next time.
And I